All right. So why don't we do something a little different around here, where I don't really break this out for streaming purposes very much, because I don't really know if I have that kind of audience who'd be interested in this, especially since I'm not starting from the beginning and most of what I do is full playthroughs of games. But I figured there's an event going on in Granblue this week for all of these 4 fire element raids, where if you beat them, you get a very nice, very generous amount of extra loot, which most of it is probably going to end up being very unuseful to me. But I've been playing this game for a kind of bizarre amount of time, so I'm reasonably confident that I can solo all of these battles. And also, they're going to be doing this again for the next 5 weeks after this, one for each of the 6 elements in game. And so I will try to show all of those off. And yeah, that's all I got as far as a description. Let's go ahead and start with, we're going to wait for this until the end because we're literally just going to one-shot, just one-turn kill Colossus Omega. Poor sucker isn't even going to get a chance. So we'll start with something that is actually not trivial. And we'll buy in using those. Yeah, I can play it 2 more times today, but I'm only going to do the 1 for now. I'll give away the other to the rest of my crew if they are on after this. If you want to... I was going to say, if you want to see what my party looks like, but I say this like I'm going to get that much of an audience who know anything about this game. Also, wow, I have not heard like any of the sound in this. So the volume balance might be absolutely dreadful on top of that. Actually, preemptively, I'm going to turn that down a little bit, just to make things a little better on your end. And we can use that this turn. This boss doesn't use any buffs, so we can do Disruption right away. And yeah, this one might go pretty fast, even though this raid usually sucks no matter what you're doing. Just for reasons that we'll see that soon enough, that there's a lot of reasons why this is not very fun to do by yourself. Who would have guessed it's designed for multiplayer? Sort of. So, yeah. And we're gonna go ahead and use this completely broken thing and just... Honestly, yeah, there was probably no reason for me to use that other nuke at the beginning of the turn. I'll explain things better in later fights, because that will actually be something where I will be, air quotes, strategizing a little bit. Air quotes, yes, it's that level of things. Looks at being ranked like 196 or something, I think. Out of the cap is, I think, 275 right now. My memory is not great. Okay, so here comes something kind of familiar, basically, because this move is also really silly with what I'm using here. That multiplies for every character who uses stabs in your team, and my entire team is all staff, so it's just, here's using the same thing 6 times, refills all of the meters. Yeah. Anyone who, I feel like this is the kind of thing that should actually not be done, like, just because it's not a good use of any of my resources whatsoever, but why not? Okay, so here's why our life starts to get really miserable right now, is because the boss just switched elements and is now water, so we don't do our double damage anymore. We don't get crits anymore, which is one of the things about this thing is kind of a pain, is that you can only crit against something that is already weak to your attacks. So it's time for us to slow down for several turns. And we will activate this because it's going to... Nah, we'll keep that. Never mind. Actually, yes, we want to activate the barrier right away. Because we get... Where is it? It's at the top of the list. This. Which is very important because during this phase, we get put to sleep a lot, and this move purges debuffs. So that basically will just get immediately cleared. Also, yes, I have completely forgotten to use a certain move here. That's how little I... How many craps do I not give? A lot. And look at the back of our party not doing much of anything in terms of multi-attacks here. If we're not going to be able to crit until, like, way later in this fight, I think literally Twin Elements doesn't turn back until, like, 10% or something in this difficulty. We need to spend all of those on Disruption. Can we land Gravity? Yes, but it doesn't seem to have done anything for us. Dang it. That was pointless! Yeah, I told you this fight is not great. That was the sleep attack there. However, thankfully we have that just immediately taken care of. Alright. Everybody charges up and we do this again. At this point I could probably just click refresh and skip through these, but I never bother to hit the refresh button for some reason. Are we done here yet? Unfortunately, no. 14%. Can we get our delays here? We can get one of them. Okay. I'm not going to bother attempting to debuff at this point until we hit that change back point. So next turn, I guess. And at this point, we basically just end everything, but we do get to show this off. I'll talk more about this in more depth once we start into, well, probably the next one, because that's not exactly short. We'll throw this up, even though we don't need it. I'm pretty sure we win this turn. We get pretty close. Oh wow, with that damage, yes! Very nice, very nice. Oh, I think we got something decent out of one of those purple chests, which are part of the promotion. It's, I think, double, skip through that, please. Oh, it's not as great as I thought it was. If I remember correctly, it's double drops total for the host, and for participation, you get one of those purple chests, which can have some pretty good stuff in them. Not, like, usually the most important things, but still. And again, not going to complain about a couple extras, basically. Let's go into this one here. Colossus Omega Impossible, which is anything but. Anything but on any of those words. Although, yeah, pretty big robot. Also, the theme for this battle is real good. I'll see if I can, like, shut up a little bit so you can hear some of it, but you probably won't be able to because blah, 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 doing the whole thing. Alright. So, we do our standard things here. Debuff. Buff. Debuff. I do not think this fight has any notable buffs until we get down to like 10% or something, at which point we're just going to obliterate this goofus pretty much the same way as before. And yeah, alright. So turn 1 follows basically the same as before. So, while all this is going on, I should sort of explain that this entire team uses a fairly recent mechanic called crests, where you stack these little buffs as you do certain things that do not do anything by themselves, but certain characters have bonus effects based on just who they are. So for example, when we use our big meter attack here, everybody in the party gets one, and we get a bonus effect that I don't remember what it is right now. Over here, Macula gets one whenever she casts Froststar Gale, which, if I remember correctly how this works, okay, yeah. So it's applied as a debuff to the target, where that casts at the end of every turn. She gets one of these. She has an ability where your entire party's skill stats, including skill damage cap and skill damage, go up depending on how many crests they have. And this triggers twice. This is our delay effect that I mentioned last battle. Will go off twice when she has 5. And then this is just gravity and another damaging effect. Over here, Cagliostro gives a crit buff to all of our party, depending on how many crests they have. And then once this is 5, it upgrades, and while she has 3 or more, she consumes 1 to automatically pull Disruption off of cooldown, which can allow for some pretty heavy bursts and to remove a bunch of debuffs from an enemy. Lily increases our fire defense depending on how many crests we have, and she has this shield effect, which also gives those to us. And wow, I gotta turn my volume down even more here. That's kind of ridiculous. This gets shockingly loud. I did not realize how noisy this could be. So let's go ahead and just do this thing that you've seen like a billion times already. So this boss is infamous for a very specific move that we're going to see like twice in here, and it's probably not going to do much to us. And I will, well... Oh, okay, so he's got a defense boost. That can't be, like, anything worth bothering with, though. So we're going to target the arm here, and we're going to apply these effects, and we're going to... Well, I spent so long talking that we lost all the debuffs that we had on this guy. That's okay. We'll be able to press through this pretty easily, I think. So the arm does an attack called Dimensional Cleave, which very early on is kind of infamous for doing some 70,000 damage to a character who resists it. So good luck dealing with that. We have ways of mitigating that, and also this fight is not that hard for us anymore because I'm so over-leveled. So I'm not going to worry about it too much. Although it can get scary, and I think we might see a big reason for that this turn. Because again, we're doing a lot of damage. Well, we're not doing a ton of damage to the main body here because we don't have any debuffs on, but that chain outburst will push it down. It does its heat effect at 70%, which lowers its defense but raises its attack. So again, if it hits us, if it like bothers to do Dimensional Cleave, it's not going to be the funnest time in the world for anybody. But we will not worry about that at all, pretty much, because we're already kind of carving this fella up pretty bad. I feel a little bad for Colossus because, like, Colossus is really neat. This is a design, a character, being a giant robot and everything. Alright, so Justice. This is going to do a ton of damage to both parts, and it's going to balance out everybody's HP before they get a heal. So that actually kind of costs us some health, which is, like... This is gonna sound real stupid when I say this, but that's not great, everybody. Because we have... I can't point to it over here. Because, of course, that's just part of my OBS layout. But a couple of these weapons have an ability type called Stamina, which causes our damage to go down as our health goes down, but we get huge attack boosts from it at full health, or even just pretty high health in general. So that might lower our DPS, everybody, but I think we'll probably be fine. Alright, so are we going to see the thing? Yes. And it only did like 4,500. We are way over leveled for this kind of fight. If we were doing this, and especially if we didn't have damage mitigation, that would be one-shotting people. And later in the fight, Colossus has a version that hits twice. When you're just starting out at like level 101 or so when this becomes available, this fight is one of the worst things in the game. But we're kind of playing this boss for a chump right now. In fact, this is an easier fight than the one we did a few minutes ago. By a pretty decent chunk. And our buddy's getting a little angry here. Our shield has fallen off, so we're going to use that summon to gain the Sanctuary ability. So we get our attack boosted and a fire resistance buff. Which I don't think is going to be a huge concern, and also, excuse me, I don't know if that came through, but, excuse me. So, we'll do this again. Get our triple attack chance up. Okay, so here comes the part where I'm wondering if we're going to see the sort of final phase of this boss at all. Very well... We're going to see it for like 2 turns. Once the main body of Colossus goes into, hits 10%, it goes into standby mode. So it gains this uplift buff, which doubles how fast its meter fills, and it gains a special attack called Resolute Reactor, which is basically dimensional cleave damage to your entire party. It is very bad. On the other hand, usually the fight gets like run down before that shows up at any point, but still, if you're doing this at a lower level and you run into that, you better be ready to defend a lot or remove that uplift buff immediately, or you're just not going to have a very good time. And there's not much there to be gained because, again, we're pretty deep in. I don't think we need anything particularly from that boss. Now let's get into the one that could take us a very long time. Shiva, who in this game is a fire type, as opposed to in Final Fantasy and stuff, where she would be an ice type. And instead we got Snake Boy here. And he's got excellent music as well. And his big booming voice. The whole soundtrack of this game is really good. So I feel very silly just say like, oh yeah, this song is good, this song is good. Yeah, okay, sure. All of them are pretty great. What's the point of telling you? We want to keep this for a couple of turns because we are going to give this fella the business right away. Buddy Boy here has a triggered effect at 95% that will buff him, and we will want to guard for it. So we're gonna do that. We're gonna do this, and we're gonna get all ready for another juicy charge attack, apparently, and just tear through those next 2%. If I had somehow done too little there, which would be very odd, but if I had, I would have just been sitting there like, I'm a complete idiot, everybody. I've been setting this up for nothing. Okay. So, we don't want to purge this immediately, but we do want to do it this turn in order to save ourselves some pain. But we want to take advantage of that defensive trade-off that Shiva is making here to do that. You'll also notice that I'm not applying I'm not using the gravity effect from Macula right away because I want to take as much advantage as possible of that glaciate effect. The glaciate from Macula and from Lily do not stack. Oh wow, is this back up already? Oh, I must be... Wow, I've been filling up real fast. I'm used to doing these off of what's called strike time, where you get the full meter at the start of the battle. That's not normal. Usually you only start at like 30% for everybody. But if you're in a crew, you get 2 hours a day where you start battles with that. So take advantage. Take advantage. You can also tell that this... Well, first of all, this is such a gimmick team because it's just using everything based on Water Crest that's available, with the exception of one summon that I don't have at all yet. But also the fact that this really is very burst-oriented in general. It's nowhere near the most powerful of that for water. But we got something I feel a little more interesting on the go. Some people will disagree, and that's fine. Although they are wrong. Let's do this. Get everybody healed up a little bit here. And we can use this now, so we get a lot of bonuses from spending all 5 crests here. Everybody gets guaranteed crits, basically. They get this bonus damage effect, sometimes referred to as echoes if you don't know that term by any chance. We get a damage cap increase, and we get a supplemental damage effect on our crits, which again, I believe our critical hits are guaranteed because of using that version of the skill, but don't take my word for it. So, we got a couple of options here, and I'm actually just gonna go defense here. Alright, and we can disruption, but I'm going to hold that for a little bit. Because I'm sure that there will be more buffs in our future to deal with. Okay, so he just does a debuff there. I kind of consider using Kaguya, who is the summon that you can see lit up down there, a bit of a waste here, because I don't want to lose out on that 30% meter buff. That is huge. The boost to our damage cap that we'll get out of it will be pretty good, but not enough for me to want to sacrifice that. Okay, debuffing again. Yeah, he's gonna try to get us to see get the point here. Alright. Do we have anything else to do before we do that? Yes. Okay. So this is kind of straightforward, but that will change after a point. We're gonna see some more ridiculous things pop up at some point. Don't worry, for anybody who's here like, oh, this is so boring. Only a little, I swear. Oh, we're not full on that. Dang. However, we can drop a delay on here. Oh, we missed one of them. I think his resistance to that just goes up really high, or maybe the accuracy on the effect sucks. Don't personally know. We're probably not going to get anything out of this except applying debuffs to him that don't do much. Yeah. So the thing with that summon is that when it's been fully uncapped all the way, you are guaranteed to get all effects from it the first time you use it. Also, we're not going to do this. We're gonna sit on those for a bit. The first time you use it per battle, you're guaranteed to get everybody. It's technically plus 200 meter because some characters have a double bar, but otherwise it is a random chance that is extremely rare as far as I can tell. And so that's why I usually do it turn 1 or 2 depending on what is more viable at the time. Okay, now we do this. We're gonna lose some defense on Cagliostro for that, but I think we'll be able to come up. We'll be fine. We have a 60%. Oh, hi, Alan. How's it going? Yeah, it will be. I would give it maybe 15 minutes before I switch to the other game. Thanks everybody for all the birthday wishes. Yes, my 30th birthday was yesterday. I'm 30 years old. I can't quite do a good Hans Mole Man, but I think you all understand what I'm going for. I know, right, Lethal? To both of those. Like, what is this madness? Imagine streaming 2 games in one go. I say this as if Alan wasn't, you did some marbles at the end of that stream, right? I only caught the very end of X5 when you were just like, oh my god, this Sigma fight is the worst thing, is 0. And you were right, that is the worst thing. Just like everything else in that game. Until X7 happens. He hacked the marbles, it was nice. And by the way, thank you for the birthday wish as well there, CS2 Magus. How's everyone doing? Aside from everything related to the X5 there. Oh, X7 is a fucking mistake is what I'm trying to say, that's why I was saying the worst thing until X7. That X5 is pretty terrible. I actually kind of like X6. Although, maybe my opinion has changed. I haven't played it in like 15, 20 years. But X7, oh my god, X7 is like... X7 exists, and that's all I will say. Alright, so Snakeman over here is not doing a whole lot of anything impressive. We can do this, though, and we can probably push to 40%, which is where things are gonna change for us. Glad to hear you're doing great there. Or doing good, at least. Vegas. I feel like I have not seen you a whole ton in Alan's chat, but, you know, I assume you you sounded like your life was pretty busy, and I assume that's been an ongoing thing, because life, busyness, just never seems to end. Also, I do kind of want to apologize for no streams in the last, like, 2 weeks. Because, well, first, my internet died. The ISP, apparently they were digging for cables a couple of weeks ago, and they pierced through our cable. Am I killing a god? Basically, yes. So the ISP cut through our internet cable, so I was without internet for 2 days, which is a super weird experience. And at that time, some PC parts showed up, and I was like, okay, let me hook these up, and I put them in. My USB ports entirely stopped working. I was basically stuck in that regard. I had to take everything out, and to be fair, I replaced the motherboard, the processor, and the memory, so it was a pretty big surgery. I subbed all those parts out and then subbed them back in so that way I could control everything. I do not have a PS/2 port keyboard or mouse on my person at this juncture. So that was something that I did not really have. Wow, yes. I have a port for it on the back of my new Mobo, but I did not have an input device, so I had to switch back a Dreamcast keyboard. That's, well, if I ever play PSO on the Dreamcast, I will look you up for that. So yes, I had to put the old parts back in order to do it. And yes, this is after I had installed the hard drive in a laptop for a bit in order to download the drivers, because and I was just like, okay, I'm going to use it like this for a couple of days, and it turned out that my current motherboard, the one that I am now using in this PC, did not support Windows 7. So I had to upgrade to Windows 10, and blessedly, nobody at Microsoft ever made it so, oh baby, this part, okay, thank good we have all of our debuffs ready. And yes, JJ, that is correct. It is a Ryzen, one of the really good ones, 37, I believe it's 3800X. In fact, I'm going to go look at that real quick. Hopefully you don't get any flashes of weird shit here. 3700X is what it is. I admit that I'm not very good at remembering a lot of those motherboard names and numbers. So, or motherboard, that's the processor, pardon me. The Mobo didn't support Windows 7, so I had to upgrade to Windows 10, and thankfully nobody ever made it so you couldn't get free Windows 10 upgrades over at Microsoft. So, yeah, okay, can we remove this? Yes, okay, good. Thank fucking God, because while Shiva has Path of Destruction on, the damage we take from these attacks would be absolutely disgusting, like tens of thousands of hits. Yeah, we're gonna sit on that for a while. In fact, I probably could have just done Notoria and gone along with it. Okay, can we get gravity again? No, he's immune to gravity at this point. Oofa doofa to both JJ and Magus there. And, how's that going, Lethal? How do you feel about Windows 10? In a very, very generalized way. I don't think it's as bad as I originally was informed, basically. Don't get me wrong, it's not exactly the world's greatest operating system. It's definitely... 7 is definitely the the better of the two options. I will say that with, no questions asked. 7 is definitely the better OS. By a pretty wide margin. But 10 is better than Windows 8, I'll say that. There's still a little too much of, like, one of my big bugaboos about both OSs is that it seems like Microsoft is trying to make a universal catch-all sort of OS for all their devices, as if anybody would ever use a Windows-based smart tablet, right? Or a smartphone or anything. That seems a little silly. But, it's a little less intrusive in 10, and once you shut off Cortana and all that stuff, it kind of seems like Windows 7, but only a little worse. Not gross. You like hearing the Japanese voices? There's no English voice acting in this game at this point. There is, of course, English translation, as you can see by the fact that, hey, look, it lists these in English, but there's no English voice acting for these. There is English voice acting for the fighting game Granblue Fantasy Versus, and I believe there is English dub. I believe there's an English dub for the anime, as much of it as has come out yet. But that's it. And yeah, this is not exactly a fast fight. And also, I have been stopping to talk a little more than usual. So yeah, you've been getting to get a little too familiar with this. All right, so let's use this healing skill, which I have not used in any of the streamed battles yet. You can see a bit of a problem once we start getting to high levels where our HP is ridiculous. Our healing moves are goddamn worthless. Would you listen to English voice acting? Well, it depends on the quality, really. Like, some are actually decent sounding, so yeah. Okay. We're getting pretty deep into this. And I don't remember what percent the next triggered attack is. We get, like a turn or so. After this turn, there's one more turn when we can guard up and everything for the one that's based on this little meter up here. But whatever is it, like what HP percentage something gets triggered at, I think it's 10 maybe? The 3 voice actors that did most of the roles did well. Nice. That's pretty good roast. Alright, so that would be useless at this point. Well, he doesn't have a regular attack down. He's got the stacked attack down. So it's not completely worthless to throw that. Let's do Juris Scales here. A friend at work bought you the limited edition of the new Hyperdimension for PS4. Have you played it yet, and how is it? That's completely fair there, Arrow. I can understand that entirely. Is it worth doing? No, we're gonna sit there for a moment. Only children's programs are dubbed. Gotcha. Okay, so I think the triggered spell is at 5%. Yeah, he's just doing one of his regular. We'll know what the other one is because it'll be different. Which is very, very unhelpful of a statement, right? Oh yeah, we'll know the difference because it's different. Da-da-da-da-da-da. That's why they pay me the big bucks. I'm glad to hear you're enjoying it there, Magus. Right, we might be able to push to 5% here. If not, that's a shame, but, you know, it is what it is. Alright, here it comes. Yep. And it is percentage damage. It's like 95% of your party's HP. And he put up Path of Destruction, and I'm a fucking idiot, and I forgot about that. So we're just gonna try and do mitigation here and hope that, yeah, I think we're good in terms of the stamina effect. I only have one stamina weapon that I'm using, so that's not a problem. Unfortunately, Cagliostro is dead. But we get to see this character who we haven't seen yet. Oh, thank you for the sub, Lethal. Thank you very much. So, I have not actually used this character, Maria Teresa, yet. This ability, apply water allies' current HP and charge amount to all other allies. Let's see how this goes. That's fucking disgusting. That is fucking... That's ridiculous. Let's end this. That is absurd. Wow. I literally just got her less than a week ago, specifically for what she does while she's in the back of the party. That's fine. Thank you for coming out, Megas. So anyway, that character, her main thing is that she casts... Also, look at all these balls we got. I'll talk about this in a second. That character, whenever you cast anything that has a dispel effect on it, if she's in the back row of your party, she does that almost million damage nuke that applies an extra stack of attack and defense down. So that is super, super nice. To see the rest of it is ridiculous, and the sub from JJ is equally super nice. Thank you for giving me your money, and enjoy your little MS Paint emote. That was fun to make, by the way. So our drops out of this are pretty good. These are some of the big things here. The Omega Anima, because getting those is kind of expensive. We can upgrade 10 of these, but they cost a little extra of a type of treasure that is very hard to come by for most players. Fire Drake, yes, it is intended to be a lemming at least. My art skills in MS Paint are not necessarily solid. So this haul is pretty good. All these weapons got recycled, but who cares? These Genesis fragments are common. 10x Griffin Testicles upgrade. And this sword, this is actually a pretty good weapon that tends to fall by the wayside a lot for just not being the main weapon in fire, which we'll see in a few weeks when I inevitably stream this event for the wind element raids and just burn everything to the fucking ground. But this gives a nice boost to attack and health. So it's a pretty handy thing to upgrade if for some reason you're in here watching this and you play it and you get a bunch of these. Excuse me, use them. You think it looks exactly like, well, thank you. I'm glad that you think it looks that good. Okay, so we've got one more, and it's going to be a complete humiliation, even with us playing on this Extreme Plus difficulty, which is basically fighting this raid stats. It basically counts as playing all 3 of our daily allotments, but it's usually a much harder raid. We are, however, probably still going to one turn the regular version of Colossus Omega here. So we start out debuff, buff, nukes. Fish. And you can tell that the music is, like, skipping around a lot to try and get to the right phase of the fight. And it sounds completely fucked as a result, and it's hilarious. 64%, I'm pretty sure we'll be exploding that in, like, 2 hits. Okay, not quite. This is gonna be a one-turner, though. And I threw this in at the very end as just sort of a cathartic thing to be like, hey, watch me do this after the Shiva fight, which took like 25 minutes of me awkwardly talking through it and all this other stuff. So, yeah. That is all we're doing of this for the day. Thank you very much if you just wanted to watch this. If not, stay tuned. I'm going to switch over to Wind Waker in just a moment.